Because I'm talking like within 30 seconds. He goes, feels like a hammerhead, maybe 100 pounds. And again, you just go, okay, sounds good. Swear to God, that's what it was. How, like, just the depth.
And how did it start out? Like, what was the origin story?
Too much alcohol.
Really? Okay.
Says if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have given us fiberglass trees.
It's for fishermen. It's not for taking the wife and the wife's friends.
I think that it's a really, really pretty boat.
And then there was a blur that went by and ended up in the cockpit, as far as if I can remember correctly.
Welcome back to State of Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm Nick Carullo. I'm joined with me, my co-host, Anthony Pino, with Hooked Optics and captain of the Blood Money. Tonight, special guest, Ray Rosher, captain and owner of the Miss Britt operation in Miami, Florida, and also a guy that kind of got me into the industry, a mentor to me. So looking forward to talking with Ray for this one. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And, it works both ways, It's we help each other.
Yeah, for sure. So Ray, I know you got a long list you could go on, but just tell maybe a little intro of kind of how you got started when you were younger.
Well, it was kind of a accident. I was the only son of a plumbing contractor, and I went to college for 5 years studying construction management, So along the way, though, my dad bowled with a guy named Bob Lewis on Thursday night. So I hung out with Jimmy when we were like 13, 14 years old. And, Bob would dump Jimmy and I off at the boat ramp at Crandon, in the morning and say, you better be back here at 5 p.m., one of those deals. And we did that for several years, goofing off in the bay. And when I was 16, I got the chance to work with Bob and Jimmy. I was kind of second mate, Gilligan, whatever.
This is Jimmy David?
No, Jimmy Lewis.
Jimmy Lewis. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so Bob's youngest son is Jimmy Lewis, and we were a few months apart. So we'd hang out at the bowling alley with Dad. That's kind of how we started a young friendship. And that led to working with Bob. And then when we were, just a little ways into that, Bob had a heart attack, heart transplant. So Jimmy became captain. I became first mate on a boat called Tropicat. Bob worked for Kelly Tractor, Caterpillar dealer here in South Florida, and owe them a lot because they gave us, Jimmy and I, a chance when we were young. When Bob had his surgery and heart transplant, Jimmy took over running the boat, and that was July of '79. That began my time with the Kellys, and I worked for them until '99. So during those years, it was run kind of like a charter boat. We ran 150, 200 trips a year that were their private groups, customers. No one paid a charter fee, but they entertained all their customers and fished out of Key Largo mainly. But it was such a cool opportunity because bottom fishing was good down there, and dolphin fishing, sail fishing, sword fishing had really, ironically, the first time I ever worked for Bob was a swordfish tournament. Back when they had the Miami swordfish tournament in the late 70s. That was my first day of work. I knew nothing. And, it was a great event, a lot of nice swordfish back then, but that was all nighttime, and the weigh-in was at mouth of Miami River. So, but that kind of died off when longlining kind of really, once the swordfish were discovered, the longlining kind of increased, and then those numbers of fish kind of dwindled there for about 15 years. Nobody was really doing it. And then, of course, in the early 2000s, the nighttime fishing revived, which is, something we did together quite a bit. But, that was kind of my story. I kind of backed into it. I was fishing with Bob 5 days a week and Jimmy, and went to Miami-Dade Community College for 5 years for a 2-year deal, just because I was only going 2 days a week. And the Kellys were nice enough to let me have those days off. So kind of an accident. At the end of 5 years, I was like, sorry, Dad, I think my heart is here. So he gave me his blessing, and the rest is history.
Did you go to school, Nick?
Yeah, kind of similar story to that. I mean, my parents kind of said that's, if you want to fish, you could fish, but you gotta at least go to school. And it took me a while, but like Ray said, I probably, I crammed all my classes like Tuesday, Thursday, so I could fish Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, we did. I remember that. You did the same thing.
I did too, but it was such a waste of time and money. I'd be freaking a $50,000, $100,000 richer if I would have not done. From the money that I spent going to school and the money that I could have made, probably would have been.
Yeah, don't add it up.
Yeah,
don't add it up.
Yeah. It's for the parents.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. The only benefit I had out of it, I would say, well, business class was good, but the architecture part, I went through 3 levels of architecture, which has kind of helped me when we were building the first boat. I kind of, jumped in there with Lou Rambo and kind of built it together. He kind of, guided me and turned me loose. So, some of that helped in all the tackle projects and stuff. Now I like the tinkering part,
Probably helped with the bait pens.
Yeah, exactly. Learned to cut a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a good journey. And then in '99, I ventured off into charter fishing. That's when I built the first boat. I was a single dad, and Brittany was my only child, and just wanted to have my summers free, so that where I could spend time with her when she was out of school. And so that's kind of how I got in the charter business. And Alex Castellanos was my first crew member. He was the night watchman at Mathis and Hammock, where I took the boat to finish it. And I think he was 17, and he had never been offshore. I kept trying to give him money. He'd work with me at night when he was the night watchman, because, Mathis and Hammock's kind of like, the safest place on the earth. And he didn't have much to do. And he kept saying, man, don't pay me, just take me fishing. And that began a great, relationship with Alex. And, we all fished together, Nick and Alex and Robbie and Jeff. We had a great time. Those were good days.
Great days. So what year was it when when you built the first Miss Britt?
99. Yeah. And then we started the 43 in the spring of 04 and finished it in the fall of 04. So the 2.5-year build. And that one was kind of styled after Nick Smith's Old Reliable. He had a 37 Knowles that he designed 15, 20 years earlier. And I liked it so much. We fished a couple of the derbies on it, the silver sailfish derbies. And that boat was just so effective that, I knew that I wanted to build a scaled up version, a bigger version. And that's kind of why it took so long too. We went down to Key West and got a lobster hull. I tried to buy it from Claude Torres, and he said, man, I'm in my 70s. If it isn't on my list, I'm not building it. Go talk to that Jim Bakel guy. He's got more patience than me. And that's how I met Jim. And Jim ended up buying the molds from Claude, with the Miss Britt being the first boat he built as the owner of those molds. So now boat's a Bakel 43. It's the proper name.
Oh,
but Jim's a great guy.
So not a Torres.
Yeah, it's, kind of a Torres Bakel, whatever you want to call it. But
why are those Torreses so popular? I mean, there's the Locasea that used to be a Torres up in Fort Pierce, and are they just because it was a pretty stable utilitarian hull that you could kind of just go get and do what you want with it? Yeah,
they were, just like you said, you could buy the parts, you could buy a kit. That's what Bakel was doing, was buying hull and caps and then building them up for people. And that's why Torres steered me to him. All the headache clients like me, he gave to Jim. But it's a lot like a Duffy, real flat bottom, sharp entry. And the reason the lobster guys like them is they haul a lot of weight. So they could put, over 100 traps on that thing and go to sea.
Gotcha. So it's for you guys doing the kite fishing most of the time, it's a very stable platform, and you don't have to go very far. So you don't like that, that 18, 20 knots and like that dead rise style could just be very comfortable.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's why like Paul Bernard Hughes put that Garlington bottom on his, because he wanted to travel more and do, so that's where Jim and I talked about that a lot, about him maybe making an updated mold for the bottom, but I don't think it's ever happened. But that would be the only thing you could do to make that a more broad spectrum boat, to go to the canyons and all that. But for what we do here, it's perfect. And there's been plenty of those boats go to the canyons, They're just don't expect a 35 knot boat, but it works. The walk around made it super, super fun and, usable.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the first boat of its kind that probably started a whole new era of the walk around style boats you see now,
Yeah. I mean, Nick really gets credit for designing the first one. And he actually gave me a lot of measurements. Like in the bow, he said, you want 27.5, 28 inches from the deck to the gunnel. Because when you're in the bow chasing a fish on a rough day, you got to have support higher on your thighs for safety. In the stern, you can be about 24, 25 inches. So my point is, Nick had already, thought all those things through, and that obviously helped the project on our end because we had a lot of things that Nick had already done through trial and error to know all the, like walkways. Our walkway's about 26, 27 inches, allows two people to pass, whereas the Paul Bernard's boat's about 18 to 20, a little bigger house. But I didn't really build mine for comfort in the house. I built mine for function on the outside, more room to fish.
How did Nick already, how did he already know so much, I guess then, and how did you learn so much from him?
Well, the funny thing was when I was building the 34 in Riviera Beach at Lou Rambo's, he walked into the shop. Now I had met Nick a couple times fishing. The thing that always impressed me about Nick is he would be out there by himself, flying 2 kites, sometimes 1 kite. But the point is he would be fishing by himself most of the time that I saw him. And I didn't really know Nick that well, but I knew him enough to have, some, history of, that day we fished next to each other and helped each other and this and that, but we had never actually fished on a boat together. And Nick came in to see what I was doing in that shop. He had heard I was building a boat and that I had left the Kellys. And he said, hey, after he looked over the boat, hey, you want to fish tournaments? I go, sure. He said, funny part is, if I remember correctly, he said, I want to fish, I think it was 3 seasons. And then after that, I'm going to fly fish. He said it like that before we ever fished together. And we made the agreement to do it. And as it was approaching, he said, hey, we've never fished together. Think we ought to get out there? I go, sure. And that day, he was trying to get fish for the Met tournament. You had different line classes. And I think we went, that day, Alex had a problem. It turned out to be just Nick and I on the 34. And I watched him go 9 for 13 on 8, 12, and 20 by himself. And, wow. He's just that special guy. So that's the reason I tell you that's not to brag about, catching the fish. It's that he was a special individual. He looked at things through a different lens than I think most of us look through. I mean, it's just the craziest thing I ever saw an angler do. We missed, Alex, Robbie, and I were fishing the Bob Lewis tournament. There was a beautiful edge down off like Long Reef, like 120, very defined. That there was nobody around us. We kind of found it on our own. And we missed a couple fish, which rarely ever happened. He just got picked on one, and then he came to the next bait and picked again. And Nick was beside himself. So I'm like, don't worry, Nick, we'll jump him, So Alex and Robbie are in high gear, they're pulling baits in, leaving the kites out. It was southeast wind. So, we just push down the edge to the south, kites stay up. Alex and Robbie are, hooking new baits. And as I'm running, I'm doing about 10 or 12 knots. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a bait go flying to the west of me, and he throws it on that edge. I'm doing 10 or 12 knots, and I'm going to go like 200 yards and give us time to get the baits out. And I'd only gone like 100 yards. So to be honest with you, I was a little aggravated. Like, we got a plan. Let's stick to the plan. And he's over there feeling the line, letting it go, feeling the line, letting it go, feeling the line, letting it go. Like he's getting a half a second to feel to test the pressure. And he says, I just got picked up. And I'm thinking, really? I got like goosebumps right now telling you the story. I pulled it back. I'm like, whatever you think, Nick, go ahead, whenever you want. He tightens down, got him on. He caught a sailfish while I'm resetting because it upset him so much that he missed 2 fish. He was just, stuff like that would spin him out. And he could not wait for me to go get reset. That's a different human being. I watched awesome. It. Yeah, ask Alex and Robbie. We all looked at each other. We're like, what just happened?
Wow.
Nick, so to answer the question about the boat and the design, a guy who can think like that, imagine what he can do with boat design. Yeah. And I just am so thankful for the time I got with Nick. He just, I talked to him a couple of days ago. Dear friend, and what a mentor, Is he building
the Bayless?
It's in Cabo. Last time I saw it.
I don't know. What's the latest?
I saw it in Cabo last fall. It was done. The
old Reliable?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't asked him too much. I mean, we always talk about getting together and going fishing again. He actually took Charmaine and I when we got married down to Tropic Star, and she had never caught a sail and fly. And that was one of the coolest weeks, I learned a lot listening to him coach Charmaine, things that he and I wouldn't talk about. I mean, we went to Venezuela together to catch his first blue marlin on fly. And, I fished with him a fair amount after our 3 years of tournament fishing. And, just listening to him coach somebody was just, he's a super, super intelligent guy. So he applied that to boat building and, was ahead of his time. The only thing we did was apply to fly bridge and a tower, which was useless to him because he was fishing by himself so much. He didn't need all that extra. As a matter of fact, he had a tower on the first Old Reliable, the 37 Knolls, and he took it off. It was in storage. Yeah. Interesting guy. He hooked us. One day we were drifting in the Derby. We were up off the Loran Tower. It's real calm. And he's got a line down with a little bit of lead and he gets bit. He tightens down on it because I'm talking like within 30 seconds. He goes, feels like a hammerhead, maybe 100 pounds. And you just go, okay, sounds good. Swear to God, that's what it was. How, just the depth of, I'll give you another little tidbit that was just,
Anthony's not believing you.
No, I believe it.
It's true. Yeah. I just watched it. And this guy, now I'm not saying he never was wrong, but I'm saying most of the time he was right.
Yeah.
All of his rods were the same blank, conventional or spinner. And he's the one that taught me how to count guides. So every rod would bend the same rate with the same pressure.
Yeah.
What does it matter if it's a spinner or a conventional? It really doesn't. It's just it's just a shock absorber.
Yeah.
He just expanded your mind. He was just, not to say that he's the only one I learned things from. I learned things from a lot of guys. Bill Harrison, of course, Bob and Jimmy Lewis, a lot of guys. I fished with a lot of great, great guys. But, those are the things, we just happen to be talking about Nick, but those are the things that I think are the greatest gifts that fishing bring, are all those experiences that make you go, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And it's not, it never ends, it's still happening. I don't know that I remember anything that was that dynamic where I went, wow, that was really cool. I mean, maybe he will, I'm more of a utilitarian fisherman. I just kind of react to what I see in front of me. Nick would organize all of his hooks on a rag, all in order. And one of the things Alex would do to mess with him is turn one hook over, just to see if he's paying attention.
Yeah. When he was tying them, they would all be organized perfectly, one after the other.
He'd have spare hooks.
Okay.
He'd have spare leads and he'd have spare rings.
Okay.
And they'd all be equidistant and turn the same way. That's the way Nick's brain works.
Yeah.
And, and Alex, I watched you one time turn a hook over, and then I just kept my mouth shut and I watched. And sure enough, Nick looked at it and turned it over and looked around like, did the wind do that? Who did that? Somebody did that.
Yeah.
It was fun. We had a lot of fun together. And I fished, a lot of years with him. We fished 3 years together. And then here's a funny story. So if I remember correctly, we always fished the Derby on the Old Reliable because it lived in Palm Beach. My boats lived in Miami. Mm-hmm. And I would put goggle eyes and threads in my truck. I had a big amberjack box, and I would aerate them and go up to his house. We put them in a pen. If I remember correctly, we won the first 2 years, won the top angler in the tournament. The third year, we were winning. We had a pretty good lead going into the third day. And Rob Ruich and Albert Castro were on a boat called Hot Rods, which was Albert's boat. And they had one fish. We had 10. And I don't know, second place might have been 7 or something. We had a good, and this was, by the way, we knew this was our last year together, tournament fishing. So we really wanted this. I wanted it for Nick. It's his hometown tournament. It was his favorite tournament. And so Nick was not super secretive, which was cool. If I helped somebody, he never gave me the stink eye. So those guys were asking, where did we go? What did we do? We won the daily, I want to say, up off Fort Pierce on a little edge, and Chip Schaefer's wife was relaying the fish to their, because this is, kind of cell phones were just emerging. She relayed the fish to their committee boat. They called them in for us. So that's and we knew that the third day of the tournament, that didn't exist. Their tournament was over. It was Pelican.
Yeah, the Pelican.
Club or whatever. So I tell them, we were up there on Fort Pierce, 1:30, there's an edge, blah, blah, blah. And we decide we don't have that relay deal. So we just go to the Loran Tower and we caught 5 fish that morning. So we're at 15. And we hear on the radio, Hot Rods just called in 8 fish. They got a call in for 8. Nick freaked out. Matter of fact, Alex had a wrap on number 5, and Nick, it's the only time he did it, pushed me aside because his console was right there at the lead of the cockpit. It was, right when you step up, there's a console. He jumped up there. I got out of the way, and he dumped it, and we go north. We're going up. We're going to find him. We spend the rest of the morning. We only had like two and a half hours left, and we never find him. They call in 7 more. Remember, they had 1.
Yeah.
They beat us. And Nick, so we come in second place, and Nick wins top angler, the Ray Award. And I go, Nick, man, let's come back next year. We'll fish on your boat.
Where were the? Hold on. Where was the hot rod? Were they up the road?
They were up there. Yeah, they went up there. But
I got you.
According to Albert, they held the cell phone against the tower leg. I don't know if that really works, but they were able to get out on their cell phone 2 times. They called in 8 and they called in 7.
Gotcha.
And they got us. And I mean, it was just the craziest thing. We had caught 5 by like 10 o'clock or whatever it was. And, in hindsight, obviously we should just put them back out. But I felt so bad for Nick. And I thought Nick would really take it hard. It's like, no big deal. He's like, no, we're done. I told you I'm fly fishing now. I said, Nick, I'll come up here. I don't even care if I get paid. I just want to go fish with Nick,
Yeah.
We've become such good friends. I'm like, I'll come up here. Don't worry about it. We'll just go fish it for fun, He's like, no. And we never fished again. That was it. Done.
Wow.
Like, how do you lose to a guy who had 1? But that's a good lesson,
Yeah.
Never count anybody out.
Wow.
Yeah.
What tournament was that?
Derby, the 3rd Derby, I think it was, that we fished with Nick. We had 10 going in the last day, and hot rods. Albert Castro and Rob Ruich had 1. We told them where they bit the day before, which was kind of too far for radio contact and all that. We had called in our fish through another tournament. Chip Schaefer's wife was actually calling them in for us. We knew we could link to their radio, and that wasn't going on the 3rd day. So we didn't go up there because we knew we probably couldn't call them in. And they got 2 calls in, 1 for 8, 1 for 7. And we went up there and they got us by 1 fish. They caught 15 on the final day.
And you won it with Nick twice though, right?
Twice. Yeah. And that last year we came in second. And that's why I was saying, I wanted to go give it one more try with Nick. And his personality is funny. He's like, no, like, of course not. We're going fly fishing.
He told you 3 years ago that he was going to do it.
Right. You weren't listening.
He's a man of his word.
That's it. That's Nick. That's why I tell you, he's funny. But yeah, I've really enjoyed so many people. Kit and Peter, I've had such a good time with them. We had a lot of fun in the Derby. We fished those 3 years that they set records, 636. I think it was 958 and 1146. Those were amazing tournaments.
I was fishing in 2012. It would have been that we were just out there on the Billfisher getting in the way pretty much. We caught like 14 and like Duffy looked at me like I was like, we caught 14. This is amazing. And then everybody else comes in and it's just embarrassing. Like I'd never kite fish. I kite fish like one day before that. And then we end up in this epic bite that like I'd never seen. And I was like, oh my God.
How many did you catch that tournament, Ray? Like 60 or something?
59.
But were you on for those? That
Get lit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I believe it was 49, 59. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We caught 35 one day. That was our best tournament.
4 line.
Yeah, 4 lines. Yeah, that was nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was fun.
They were tailing that day?
They were, yeah. Yeah, I tried to reset on 1 pack. Got reset and somehow something went wrong. We dumped 2 kites and I never reset again. So that was kind of a 1 drift, and it was a hard northwest wind right in front of the inlet, Lake Worth. And every time you'd hook up, they're going south. So you just kept we didn't really go anywhere. We started like breakers and ended up at the north end of the condos at the end of the day.
Wow.
It wasn't ripping current, but
Yeah. Yeah. We had Chip on the podcast before he spoke about that day. He was all jacked up talking about that day.
It was luck, man. I didn't have any like crystal ball. We went out there. So you know how it is. See a couple free jumpers. You go, hey, this looks good. Nick's famous saying was, don't leave a good place to start fishing is where you saw a fish. Doesn't matter if someone's fighting it or that was always his thing. When you see one jump or, don't overthink it. I've thought of that many times. I'll pass a free jumper. No, I got to go to Triumph,
Yeah. Yeah. I got to go to the promised land.
That's it. And then later we're right back up
catch
there.
it. Yeah, you're back to where the free jumper was.
Yeah. Those are good times. Yeah. That's one of the best parts of the whole business. All the fun people you get to fish with, Harry and Cindy Shufflebarger, and so many people.
So you were talking about how you came upon your first mate as he was as a watchman. How do you typically come upon your mates, Ray? Is there any, is it just kind of random? Do you have any good stories about how you come upon them? Do they come to you, or it's always interesting how certain dynamics, like an owner captain or a mate captain dynamic starts.
Well, like with Alex, that was kind of the most unusual one because he was just a kid in the marina. Yeah. But and Nick had fishing experience. I knew he's a diamond in the rough. He just needed time, but a lot of them, I actually the last 10 years or so have really been hitting the high schools, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Some of the young kids, they have the work program. I think you're gonna interview in a few weeks, Matt. He was one that came. I think Chino knew Matt and brought. So in other words, one of my existing crew knew a young kid in high school that's dying to fish, and I've just started. Open arms. You want to come? Yeah. Come on. And then they. Like Nick's deal was he got on the work program. So, if I had weekday afternoon charters, he could jump on and. Come on,
that was a thing? You could go and leave school, go fishing?
Yeah, it's a work program. I think it was either Steven did it too, but Steven and Matt both told me that they were like the 1%ers that weren't working in a restaurant.
Gotcha.
Like high 90% work afternoon jobs in a restaurant. It's a good starter job, but they both had jobs that I think will become their careers. And that was the coolest part, is they were really excited because they were having more fun than all their buddies.
Yeah. Probably making plenty of money.
Yeah. I mean,
a lot more than a bar back.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, Steven was almost all these young guys. I'm so blessed to have been able to cross paths with so many of them that are just so enthusiastic. And I mean, that's the way I was. I'd bass fish as a little kid until they make me come home. You got to love it, really. And if you love it, you'll, try harder.
Is that pretty much the first thing you look for when you're looking at kind of considering somebody? Are they going to want to do it?
Yeah. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 things. The important part is most of the important things I didn't teach them, just like Nick, good personal traits, honesty, integrity, punctuality, those things have to be there. They have to have a certain level of aptitude that allows them to, kind of like this Nick Smith factor. You got to be able to remember some things and learn and observe, and most importantly, retain. I don't mind showing somebody something 3 times, but when you start approaching 5, 6, 7 times and they still don't have it, they just don't have the retention. There's so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little things. None of them are complicated, but it's hundreds of little things that are the building blocks to your skill set that if you can't retain easily, man, that mountain's just too high to climb. I've had a couple like that. They just never got there. They just run out of steam. And then the problem is they got to have some skills to be able to run a cockpit by themselves early enough before they run out of money. So that's where young people come in so well as a potential new mate, is they're living at home. Yeah. If you can get that young person that doesn't have to make full pay, then it's college. That's all it is. They're just going to school for a couple of years or a year, depending on, how hard they work out, how much they apply themselves. And then finally they're what I call standalone. Once they're standalone, they're going to do well. Personality is another thing. You got to have fun. You got to enjoy people, right? If you're grumpy and don't really like new faces every day, charter fishing ain't for you.
Yeah.
But if you can take, if you can make, what is it? What's the old saying? Make chicken salad out of it instead of something else. You can make the best of your groups, right? And the mates that can joke around and have fun. And my favorite days are the days where by the end of the day, they're busting each other's chops, That's when you're winning.
That's where you make your tip right there.
Yeah. And the fish don't always jump in the boat. We all know that. So you got to have a good time.
How is Nick then? Because he's a pretty, I've never fished with Nick. We've actually never met in person, but he seems like a pretty intense guy. Does he Does he calm down when it comes to the charters and it's pretty more relaxed, or is it?
Well, you see the smile he's got? Yeah. He has that smile a lot during the charters, and that bodes well. So
I wasn't that high strung back then, Anthony.
Yeah.
Ray was the one yelling at me.
Now it's his turn. The irony is I'm getting ready to leave in a couple days to go fish the big rocks with Matt Byerly. I fished with Matt for like 12 seasons, right? So now, and it's funny, Matt worked full time for Mark Pagano on the big dog at Willis up in Palm Beach, and he was taking care of Tony Cummings' boat. So I did a season with Tony Cummings. Matt kind of came along with he and Scott Adams, worked the deck, and talk about full circle. The big rocks, Mark Pagano and I are going to be his deckhands. So, I enjoy that dynamic too. Of course, Mark and I can dish it out. We'll be tapping our foot going, come on, where are they?
Yeah. We'll be doing a lot of tapping up there, buddy.
Yeah. Well, Matt won the Governor's Cup last week. So
nice.
Good. Yeah. He put one in the boat.
Nice.
Well, he won the kill division. I don't know how it worked out with points.
How big was that fish?
534 or 532, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. All he had to be was 1 pound bigger.
That's it.
I think they killed a couple up there. That was funny. Right before the tournament, he was kind of belly aching. I go, Matt, it only has to be good for one person, and that's you. It's like 70 boats,
That's awesome.
So, the lesson is you got to be nice to your crew, because someday you may be in the cockpit.
One day.
Oh, yeah. Let me know when you need somebody.
All right. I like it.
I may not be super fast, but I'm steady.
Oh, man. I remember Anthony in a tournament. I don't remember which one, but I think we had a big multiple on. I hooked one, and there's another. I don't even know where our anglers were, but I was the only one in the cockpit, and I have one rod and another one eats, and I pick up that rod, and Ray's like, "What are you doing? You can't do
never
that.
Forget that.
You can't do that." And we managed to catch both of them, but I had to fight the one and leave the one in the rod holder and catch the one first, and then
that's the only reason I blew the gasket. So that was one of those Chris King tournaments.
Yeah.
And he had a rule that once you engage a fish, you got a fish on, and you hook another fish, you can't come back to the other fish until you catch that one, which is kind of a crazy rule. But that meant and by the way, to fill in a little deeper, that was off Boynton on a Saturday morning, a nice, calm Saturday morning. There's boats going, all around us. And now we got a quad on. It was you and Jeffrey in the cockpit. And there was an extra guy. That's why I blew up, because in my mind, I was like, just get the extra guy over there. But so now we had to stay tight on the first fish with the boat. Now we're a tie rod and let everybody catch your triple. And then we got the fourth one. But Ellie, remember the boat ran over your line?
Yeah.
Remember that? One boat went right over the line. I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to work. But the line was deep.
It worked out.
That's the only time I ever screamed at you that I can recall. But it all
the only time?
The only time. I'm not I try not to scream. That's not good.
Oh man. Yeah. Was that big one we won?
I think it was, yeah. Added a little stress to the pot.
Yeah. I won my only master angler that tournament.
Yeah. Yep. Rod hog.
Yeah. That was a good
That was
one.
Cool. Yeah. Saturday morning at Boynton Inlet. Boats everywhere. God.
Outgoing tide? It's a good on outgoing tide, right?
Yeah. I can't remember that particular moment, but there were 4 of them hooked on.
I like how
pressure.
I like how you can remember like those details, like from so far back fishing with Nick and stuff like that. Is that something that just is inherent in you that you can like go back and be like, oh yeah, I was here. Everything looked like this. Cause I feel like if somebody asked me about a certain day, I could pretty much recite certain days, like not every day, but certain days down to the absolute T. Yeah.
Yeah. Those things get burned in your brain. And it's so funny of the seemingly important things that I can't remember, but I can remember fish and moments, and that's cool. That's a gift.
Can you do that, Nick?
Yeah, there's certain days
I think that
just like Ray said, they're just they're burned in your
You
memory.
can remember every detail, which way the wind is
Yeah.
blowing. I think that's super
Yeah.
cool. I think that's kind of what separates, and I don't think that I'm any good, but when I talk to people like you, or like we had Quinn on yesterday, or a couple other people from up this, like Duffy, the other, you remember all those little things pretty much off the cuff, you know? I think that's pretty cool.
We caught 26 one time in the Derby and did not win the daily. It was, we caught 44 the day before the tournament on the Wheeze and the Keys. I was running, that was the year I ran it, and right out in front of the Juneau Ledge. So we're all jacked up, think we're going to crush them. Of course, now you add, a whole bunch of boats. It wasn't as good. And I made a fatal mistake. We were doing well. Had a couple fish cushion, and for some, I just didn't get bit for like 10 or 15 minutes. And I decided, I'm going to go back to the numbers. And I leapfrogged like 10 boats, and the next wave of fish came from the north, because we were kind of north position, somewhere up near the north, and I could never catch up. Quentin actually beat us that day with 28, caught 26, didn't win the daily. And it's funny, my crew still remind me of that. Roy Huff was in the cockpit, and he'll talk about that day. About once a year, he'll bring up hey, you want to run back to the ledge? That's part of why you remember, we all remember our failures much more than our successes. You learn more from the failures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about most valuable fish that you ever failed to catch or failed to count? I bet you guys both have some of those stories.
Go ahead, Nick.
I can tell you every detail.
I'll give you a good one from last year. It's not that we failed. We were not in the Calcutta, but we ran way up. Have you ever fished out of Ocean City, Ray?
Yeah.
Okay.
A few times.
I ran way up behind the Spencer on some third-hand report my Uncle Bill got, and I'm just like, we're in it for the top boat in the White Marlin Open, and this is last summer, and for some reason I just felt like we needed to go find this run out to the middle of nowhere on the third-hand report. Like the details were quite vague from somebody who was lure fishing. They saw like 14 whites or something like that. So I ran out up to where the numbers were, and the water's green. There's piles of bait, but the water's green. And I'm just like, I fished there for an hour, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not where we need to be. I was just like, we're going to blow this whole thing. And I was running back to the south where I knew there was a handful or half a fleet of boats. And I just said, I'm going to run out to the east and see if there's any blue water. And I found it was an edge, a couple degree and a half change, or the faint grass. And I was like, whoa, blue water. Temperature edge. So we stopped there, and I'll mark one on the sonar, catch him. We catch four. Like, we didn't really start. We started fishing at lines in, but we really didn't start fishing till about 11. Between 11 and 1, we catch 4 out of 5 whites, and I mark another pair on the sonar. I'm like, oh, multiple. Drive over there, and the flat line gets smoked, like crushed. I was like, and my best friend, he's a young guy like me and Nick's age, and he almost backlashes this thing, and I'm like, all right, so we're like steaming back, like stop the boat, and I'm like, oh well, we're not going to see a double now because we've had this thing, and ends up we fight it for about 20 minutes, and I'm like, it's obviously a tuna, we're full drag, and we see it down there, we're on and off the leader for about an hour and a half, and we gaff it. It's a 102-pound yellowfin. We set back out, I go back to my numbers, I catch a white. We go to weigh the yellowfin, and we were second place, and we weren't in the tuna money.
Oh.
That one, I'll remember that one for a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
And because I felt like as soon as we stepped back out, we caught another one, and we lost on time for the top boat, which isn't a lot of money per se, but it's something.
Yeah.
You look at the names on that, and I was like, man, I really wanted to win that.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, the whole way through the tournament, I was like, I'm going to be so close to winning this freaking top boat this year. I know it. It's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. I was like, I just know something's going to happen. It's not going to work out. But that was one that was like, it counted, but we didn't, just didn't work out. How about you, Nick?
This is pain and agony hour.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There's one that comes to my head pretty quickly. I remember back early. This is right after I was running this boat, the High Standards, and it was like one of the Chris King's first tournament. I think it was like the Sailfish Cup in Miami.
Sailfish 400.
Yeah, 400. And big tournament, a lot of big, great guys in it. We ended up winning the daily, I think the first day, and the second day, everyone caught up and we fell behind. And then at the end of the day, we started making a little headway and about like back, I think we were like in 5th place, 4th place. And we were like, we were in striking distance to win this thing. I was like, I'm young, and Jeffrey, we're like, nervous as shit fishing. I think everyone was around us. I'll never forget. I think we needed 2 fish, and there was like maybe 15 minutes or something left in the tournament. And there was like a light north wind, and 2 fish like come up cutting. And it was kind of like my first time ever to experience that scenario. And I kind of like stayed super soft on them. And I didn't give any of my guys on the boat just a good chance to make a cast on either fish. And they just disappeared, and we didn't get a bite out of any of them. And I still to this day, it like haunts me, like why I didn't push up on the fish. Like they wouldn't have been spooked at all.
Yeah.
They were so focused in on bait. And I kind of laid off of them. I was like, I just didn't understand the scenario, and it cost us.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah. When I was young, the Miami Billfish tournament was it, like 100+ boats, all the Miami crowd and people up and down the coast. That was the one. And I fished it every year since it started. And it took 19 years for me to win it. And in those 19 years, I had the winning fish on or, either on or eating my bait, and blew it 4 times until the 5th time at 19 years, we caught the fish and won it. And I called my dad, just broke down in tears, Yeah. Yeah. You just go, all those failures, man. Oh, wow. I can tell you every one of them.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, how many times, obviously I won, some first place with Ray, which, I remember all of them, and just the experience and the feeling is so good. But to win one as a captain, when you're it's the hardest one. The first one, yeah. I mean, it took me so many years of failing, and 2nd place, 3rd place, 2nd place, 3rd place, 5th place. It just to make it one it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
We didn't. Yeah. We were, when I first started running the boat, I've been on the boat for 10 years on this boat. So it's basically since I was 22 to now, I was 33 now. And when we finally won something, it was a big day for all of us. And that would have been winning that top boat in the White Marlin Open, Ray, would have been a call. Yeah. Hug my parents, like, have a good cry type thing, for me. But it was really special because it's been 10 years, and my people were super patient with me. I came off a really good boat, and I got this job, and I just thought it was just going to be easy to jump from a mate to being a mate to being a decent mate to a decent or good captain. And it was not. It took me, I don't even think we had 2 good years, but I could fall on my face every day we go fishing this year. So, but to at least have the feeling where you're going to go out there and be able to be competitive. That I was always searching for that feeling for the first 7 years on the boat, and finally, credit to the owners, Bill and Pete, and the rest of my guys to put up with my bullshit, because it wasn't pretty. I would cry on the way home from the White Marlin Open, just sitting up there by myself, just being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we were irrelevant for the 3rd year in a row."
But the part that's it's a double-edged sword. It's good and it's bad. But the part that's so important is the team. It's such a team sport, and part of, I think, that great feeling that you guys are talking about comes from that history you achieve with everybody involved. It rarely happens quick. Yeah. Very rarely. And, especially if you've got a long history with your crew, maybe they even started out working for you as a mate. And those are to me, that's the part that makes it the best is it's something that it's a memory you built because of the teamwork, and, it's everybody involved, anglers, everybody, Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of the sport. You work so hard and you put in so many days that are irrelevant, boat maintenance, fixing this, fixing that, and charter fishing or scouting, all that. I mean, I look at like Nick and JC bait fishing over and over and over. And, you got an aquarium, enough food to feed the Miami Seaquarium for a month in your bait pens. And, sometimes some funk gets in there and kills them all. I remember a couple times you've lost them,
Yeah, that was when I was down there. When I was like, oh, let's go. When you get in the sailfish, let's go. I'll come say hi. I was just down there running some errands and stuff like that. And Nick was like, all our bait's dead. Was that one?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. You're like, the boat's not starting and all our bait's dead.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, those are the things that make the good times so good. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
You got to have the lows to appreciate the highs.
And when you're having that high, it doesn't ever feel like it. You're like that low seems like so far from anything that you're experiencing at the moment. And the other way, when you're like sometimes when you're on the low, you're like, oh my God, like how did we even do what we did?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Those moments really suck the life out of you sometimes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, this is where I give up. That's it.
I was telling my mate today, I was like, man, I was like, I never catch anything in the Baltimore Canyon. That's where all the fishing's going on now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't really want to go there on Sunday. He's like, I never catch anything there. It's like, that place almost made me quit fishing until it gave me a great day. We had 3 really bad tournaments, and then we were fun fishing, or I had a charter, and I watched a guy that I really look up to, older, probably about your age, Ray, Gary Stam. Mm-hmm. And he caught like a dozen right next to me, a dozen white marlins. And I'm just like, this is before noon. I'm just like, I think I'm going to be done. I texted my boss because there was a charter. I was like, I think I'm going to be done with this. You're going to have to find somebody else. And by the end of the day, we had caught a dozen, but that was like 3 tournaments. And then the first day after a tournament, not fishing, sucking. And by the end of the day, we had caught a dozen too. So but I was about done. And it seems like right about the time you're about to be done with it, the universe just comes together and just like, yeah, I'll give you just enough to think you can do it again.
Right. Yeah. It's
just to keep you coming back for more.
Yeah.
Just when you're going to make a good decision in your life, maybe walk away from this nonsense. Nope, pulls you back in. So.
Yeah. It's funny. I fished the Bertram Hatteras shootout with the guy named Steve Teresi, and when I had fished with him with the Kellys. He was a customer of Kelly Tractor, and he and his dad and I fished together a lot. And great guys. They own that Florida Rock and Sand as you go down on the 18-mile stretch. And he bought a big Hatteras, and he's like, I want to win the Bertram Hatteras shootout. I'm like, pretty lofty goal, It's like, I need a captain. Okay. So we ended up, Dave Withers was available, and he ran the boat. George Beck was his regular mate. And I just went along as, whatever, sandwich maker. And believe it or not, we go fish the tournament and won it first try, and never fished another tournament with him again. He never fished another. Like, what? That's like the only time that anybody ever batted 1,000 and didn't go through all the punishment. I told him, it's just cheating. You're not allowed to do that. You got to pay your dues for years. That was real. That happened.
I remember let's see if Ray remembers this one. We were fishing one of the BBCs, maybe out of like Harbor Island. Mm-hmm. Me and Jeffrey in the pit.
I remember that.
And God, I'm trying to think where we were fishing.
James Point.
Maybe James Point. And a fish comes up on the teaser and grab the pitch, Nick. And Jeff's clearing, and I throw the pitch, and he's, you could see like a dark black, I think it was like overcast that day, hard to see. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Ray's like, he's coming on you. And I remember he eats, and I'm like, all right, I'm tight, and pulls off. And everyone's, God damn it. And I'm like, oh, I still, the bait's still there. And I drop, it comes back again, eats, and then comes tight and pulls off, and damn it. And I'm like, all right, well, he picked me that time. And I came back with the 300 or 400 was just cut. It was like I remember it was like 120-pound wahoo or something.
Yeah.
Did you end up catching it or no?
No.
The wahoo. Yeah. If that wouldn't have been, if that second bite wouldn't have happened, we would have definitely blamed you for.
Oh yeah, for
tournament.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's what you do wrong that really counts. That's what we say on our boat. Like, nobody remembers you catch a tuna or a white marlin. That's just another fish you catch. But if really fuck one off, you're gonna hear about it for pretty much forever.
Oh, I was shaking. I was like, gosh damn it, I can't believe I just missed him twice. And I reeled in, and Jeff's like, holy shit. He's like, that shit's cut. I was like, oh, thank the Lord. Oh man. I remember that one clear as day for some reason.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, well, a lot of good times. I think that's the gift that fishing gives all of us, is just great memories with great people. That really is.
How's so Ray's added a new boat to the fleet, center console for the first time. Nice. How's that working out?
How many boats do you have now, Ray?
Well, 3 working. We got one we're refurbishing. We're going to sell and kind of a gold line, kind of a work boat. But 3 charter boats. The CV34 is more popular than I expected. I was a little concerned about, not having much protection from the elements, and there's certainly I guess demand for it. You look at like what you guys do. I learned a lot really watching you guys, JC, and you fishing, the outboard boats. These boats nowadays are so much better than when I was young. It's just a better platform, and you can do a lot. And of course, Miami, it helps too, having a little bit of speed, being able to do a half-day trip. Those are, in the old diesel boat, that's not always real efficient. We just give them extra time. Our half days are, the joke on our boat is, a half day is 12 hours because there's 24 hours in a day.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Ray, how do you, and like owner operator charter boats are a dying breed, man. How have you, it's as far as an owner operator charter boat to sustain a decent living up here, it's completely gone. It's basically, they're all, or not finance, but they're all somebody's boat that goes charter fishing, but like, man, that's incredibly difficult to do. Like, how do you do that, man?
I think the most important part is to have a boat that is overbuilt for the job. So imagine having like a Duffy or something that's just, super strong built. Both of my bigger boats are single engines. And when we built those boats, everything that could be improved in durability and ease of maintenance. That's the other thing. Like for instance, both of my single engines have a hatch over the top of them that we can A-frame the engine out. And of course, in all these years, we've changed engines or lifted the engines out in both. The other thing, one of the old mechanics, Stan Ware at Pentropic, the Marine Division at Caterpillar of Kelly, told me 3406B, that was the engine I wanted. So I literally bought the engine before I knew what boat I was putting it in. And that was some of the best advice that I could have ever gotten. That engine, we put 36,000 hours on that engine before we did a major. Wow. And it's got about 14 or 15,000 on it now after the major. So, that boat, just to put it in perspective, in a little over 20 years, it's got, 50,000 hours. So we're putting a couple thousand hours a year on it, at least, probably. So 99 and now it's at 23 years. So you got to have a boat that's meant for just longevity. Like for instance, all my towers are built with one, like if they wanted, 2-inch pipe, we go 2.5 on the tower. Gotcha. Just everything built stronger. And if you don't start with that design, then you're just always chasing profitability. You just can't get ahead, because every time the old saying, the first one to know when there's a profit is the boat, because the boat breaks, right? You just start getting ahead and then go back. And the only way to beat that is to have a boat that's easy to work on, slow to break, D-rated engines. It doesn't hurt that we're in a region that allows for 12 months of charter fishing in relatively calm waters. So we're not beating our boats up. And that, I hate to say it, but that was total chance. I didn't go, oh, I'm going to do this because we're in this zone. That's something that kind of came to me later. Like, as you travel, go fish the canyons, and you go to Bermuda, and you go where the Gulf, you realize we got it good. Short runs. We got basically the Bahamas are a seawall 50 miles east of us. So you don't get those 20-foot ground swells. And, we just don't get, I fished winter of 82 and 83, I think it was, out of Port St. Lucie, out of Manatee Pocket Marina. Mm-hmm. And there were days where we had to wait to time the waves like a surfer. You had to wait for sets to get in the inlet, and that was like foreign to me. But I watched a few roller rigs. That was back when they netted the kingfish with the big roller rig boats. And I watched several of them roll over in that inlet. They'd bottom out and get caught, roll them over. So that's when you realize what the rest of the world's like, in unprotected waters.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, that all those things put together help. And the other thing is, and it's one of the, I think, benefits of having young crew that are willing to learn and willing to be team players. We do, a lot of our own maintenance, and I think it benefits everybody, not only for their future careers, but if there's a problem at sea, everybody is a little bit more on the same page. We know how this works and, how the, crash pumps and seacocks. And so, you got to service things. You got to, not to say you're not going to have a problem. Occasionally you do, but, being able to bail yourself out of that problem is a big deal. And I think that's the secret to it. You keeping everybody. And man, I think charter fishing is so good for local economies. I wish there was a way to create more support for charter operators, whether they're privately owned or personally owned charter boats. Mm-hmm. Charter boats bring so much good to the economy. And unfortunately, by nature, we're all independent. So you don't have this group of, call it a union, for lack of a better word, that has one voice. I wish we had that, because and NACO does a decent job on the west, mostly in the west coast of Florida. They're becoming a little bit more of a national organization, but you need that to create benefits to keep charter boats in business. I was an advisor on the South Atlantic Council for Dolphin Wahoo for about 10 or 12 years. And that was always my battle cry, is keep the charter boats fishing. You want to restrict something, restrict it enough that we can still go fishing. Don't have a derby fishery where it gets fished out in 8 months, then we have 4 months closure.
Yeah.
Because keeping people chartering boats, I did a poll one time because I had one of these meetings up in South Carolina coming, where they were going to discuss economic impact of charter boats. So I interviewed the two groups I fished the 2 days before I flew up there. And they spent, between the two groups total, they spent almost $8,000 on airfare, hotels, cars, meals, charter boat, tips, etc. And they both only came to fish. It wasn't like they came here for a sporting event. And so you think about that, in 2 days, $8,000 changed hands. And then that money changed hands again. I paid the fuel guy, the insurance guy, the dockage, the crew. The crew went out with that money and spent their, that money just turns into this cloud of spending. And I don't feel that there's a recognition of that in city planners, tourism councils. I wish we could do a better job of getting support, because you touched on one of the problems. How do you afford to be an owner operator? And dockage is becoming a big deal. The cost of dockage, I mean, it's getting harder and harder, as available slips shrink. How do you jump into that? And how do you make a profit? You
touched on something like, for the towns to be aware that like you're in Miami. I mean, Miami's a huge city, and fishing's ingrained in the culture there. But it's still like, you could kind of see how they might dismiss Miami fishing there. But even here in Ocean City, for the White Marlin Open, the town gives very little support. Now they're starting to, but used to be that they were like, oh, there's a fishing tournament here. There's like the amount of economic impact that tournament has, and the people that it brings is per person in an event, it's by far the most profitable for the town.
I thought about that with the White Marlin Open. Can you imagine if you could actually measure dollars spent? Think about that. Yeah. Each of these boats run into the canyons. I mean, especially this year, fuel costs and, so many things are not cheaper than they were a year ago. And holy cow, the money that's going to turn because of a fishing tournament.
I mean, so we had the guy at Sunset Marina, or the restaurant owner at Sunset Marina, has this trophy that he gives out for the biggest bar tab.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a it's a $3,000 or $4,000 bonus for the people that work at that restaurant every once a year. You know, it's like crazy. Or the bartenders. You know, it's crazy that people don't really see it. You know, and part of me like said it's not everybody sees it because, you know, it is a cool community the way it is right now. But another part of me says it's really difficult to get people into the sport, and, you know, and it's terribly expensive. So, and it's always been terribly expensive. It's just way more expensive now. So,
well, thank goodness we have those good times that keep us coming back. You know, everybody. That's a good part. And, you know, as COVID, I think, taught all of us to appreciate every day and appreciate the freedom to move around and travel and be in the outdoors. You know, you saw a big, you know, increase in outdoor activities. And I think that was good for the sport. Obviously COVID wasn't good for the population, but it was, you know, you have to look at the silver lining and say, hopefully something good came out of it. And we actually continued to fish because our marina stayed open, but made me appreciate fishing even more.
Ray, how come it seems that just for us, is it a cycle thing? The sail fishing just seems to be getting later and later for the past few years. You know, like December just hasn't been December what it used to be. You have any thought on that?
I've been scratching my head over that for a while because I remember one year, I would say in the early 2000s, we had 10 double-digit days charter fishing in Miami before January 1st. I think of that now, the last 5, 6, 7 years. I remember that. And, you know, when January 1st rolls around, I think to myself, could we have had one double-digit day if we really worked at it? And the answer has been no. So I don't know what caused it. All I can say is that, you know, food and reproduction are what drives most fish. And so you kind of have to, I mean, the only wild card is shark predation, you know. So are they getting depleted from bull and sandbar sharks that never used to really be as aggressive as they are now? You know, we certainly have seen more shark attacks during the daytime, but what happens at night? You know, somebody asked me the other day, what are those two little fins that come out of their stomach, you know, out of their below their pecs? And I don't know. I remember one night Alex and I caught 16 sailfish off Triumph, like, you know, 140 to 160, and the conditions were getting right for goggle eyes. And Alex and I decided to go back out, drop our charter off, and go back out. So now think about this. We probably had 20-something bites that day. And it really was good that afternoon. We came in, got something to eat, went right back out in the 34. We're stringing goggle eyes with the light on and never saw one sailfish. As a matter of fact, I never saw one sailfish all the nights I goggle eyed. I've never had a sailfish follow my stringer of goggle eyes up. And we were in the exact same area within a quarter mile of where we caught team hours before. So they have to go somewhere else or they have to lay on the bottom. Maybe they, you know, their air bladder gets filled up where they're kind of neutral and they just lay on. I don't know if they lay on those little finlets, or I don't know if they lay on the bottom, or do they go out in the current and drift like a striped marlin basking, you know? Do they, you know, you see the stripers in Cabo, you know, they're just like motionless. Do they do, I don't know where they go, but they weren't where we caught the goggle eyes, because you would have at least seen one swim through the light. Yeah. You know, they were biting so good, I expected to get either baits picked off our rigs or see a couple sails swimming around at night. Zero. So that's always kind of lingered in my mind. What are they doing at night? And does shark predation factor into that? You know, do they go dormant and are they getting munched by sharks? Don't know. I had a long conversation with Guy Harvey the other day about it. And, you know, just trying to bring attention to the fact that this behavior is not normal, what we're seeing with the sharks. I mean, it's making its way up to the canyons. Oh, yeah. You know, the Carolinas are dealing with it. None of that was normal. So that's not just people feeding sharks off Jupiter. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just a culture within the shark population that's changing. And, you know, I know the number of longline boats has diminished down in the South Atlantic. You know, sharks are edible. It's not like the guys are finning them. We have a very, you know, eco-friendly longline fleet compared to the rest of the world. And I would like to see more harvest of shark, but you know, it's just hard to manage that and not create waves elsewhere. But, you know,
I just heard July 1st up here, the Makos are pretty much you're not going to be allowed to catch one. And I don't know how true that is, but that just seems incredible to me. Like I wouldn't be surprised to go out and start trolling and have 4 or 5 makos air out on my teasers. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So especially this time of year up here, but yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I don't think the makos are the problem. I think
for you guys for sure.
Yeah, for us, definitely. I mean, I got a picture that Pat Price sent me before he passed away, the year before he passed away, that the sailfish jumping he took in his boat off Stewart, and 2 sharks are latched onto it. I mean, that's just nuts in midair.
Yeah.
Just insane. But so not to get distracted on the question, it could also be a reduction in bait stocks during that earlier part of the season. I don't think the reproduction changed because we still saw a lot of paired up fish in May, like we always do. It seems like that's on track. So food or sharks, I would have to say. And I don't know.
Sharks definitely have to maybe be a part of it for sure. I mean, never have I seen so many sharks this late in the season. When you hook a sailfish, they're already swimming under. It's like, especially in Miami. Palm Beach has been one thing, but now.
Yeah, we're seeing it here, yeah.
Here, just as bad as Palm Beach now.
Yeah, my whole life, I never had a shark bit. I mean, a sailfish bit. Never. Until a couple of years ago in Palm Beach, I had 3 eaten in 2 days. Just nuts. Never. And you look down and they're following the boat.
Yeah.
Just, wow. Saw it. It's just, that's not balanced. I don't know what's going on, but the one thing that a lot of people don't know is you can eat a bull or a sandbar. They're actually not bad to eat. I've cleaned many of them, and I'd say take a shark home today, one a day.
Yeah,
give them to your neighbors.
We need to do something.
Fingers. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, I can't explain that one fully.
Hoping you had an answer. But the sharks for sure.
Yeah. And I can't say it's all sharks.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the sharks are out of balance. That's for sure. You can't overprotect the predator and not expect results.
Yeah.
Dramatic results. So, and I know sharks are important. I'm not saying I hate all sharks, but I just think it's not like it's out of whack,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what kind of year are you guys having up in the Northeast?
It's just getting started, Ray. Just had the first little bit of water push in here 2 weeks ago, which is, up until 2 years ago. I mean, we were catching fish, end of May, and it'd be really good in early June. But this year it's just kind of kicked on. There's been a couple whites caught and some decent yellowfin fishing, but not like wide open, not like 20 fish days, just 8 to a dozen fish, which is great fishing. Like, don't get me wrong, but we're this time of year, you're waiting to go out and find a blue-green edge and just set them out and just get clobbered right away, But we'll see. It's still
big numbers happen there in late August, September.
The white marlins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the last 2 years, July has been better than August, September. I mean, the motto up here is like, if you just want to go white marlin fishing, late August, September is like, everybody's just like, just wait and save your money and your time for that, save your days for that. But then it'll just kick off on the July moon sometimes and, catch 10, 14, sometimes 10, 15. But I'm hoping that there's a good September fishing. Like, I can't remember the last time I actually was expecting to go out and see white marlins cutting at the beginning of my career 10 years ago. We would just knew you were going to go out there and see that, for acres. And now it doesn't happen like that. So I'll be curious. I don't see a whole bunch of blue water coming right away. So I'll be curious to see how it turns out. But it's not certainly off to a banner year, but it's good enough to keep people fishing.
Where are you going this year, Nick?
Well, I just remembered a story that you telling me in Chubb. I want to say it was a tournament a while ago in Chubb, and a guy came back I'm pretty sure to hang a fish unless the fish died or something. And I remember you telling me that the fish was full of yellow eyes.
Mm-hmm. That was Bob Lewis, actually. He actually caught a triple header off Yellow Bar, just near the Northwest Channel Light. And he put all 3 in. This was, before I fished with him. He told me the story. He put all 3 in the boat because back then that was the thing to do. And one of them spit up 5 yellow eye and button snappers. He said they were so fresh you could eat them. And I never forgot that.
It's crazy. I remember you telling me that, and it's always stuck with me. I'm like, man, those things are just down there, just munching on everything.
Yeah. I caught a sailfish one time off Miami Beach. We got him on the leader, and we had to let the leader go. I don't know if we didn't have the picture or something. And he went out and shook his head, and about a 1 pound parrotfish came out of his mouth, and scales went everywhere. All those big parrotfish scales. Never forget that. So yeah. And the reason I knew the date of when I started working for Bob is we fished my boss, Ken Grimes, who was the head of the Marine Division at Kelly. And Bob loved live yellowtails on the kite. That was one of blue runners and live yellowtails. That's what he wanted on the kite. and Ken caught his first sailfish on a yellowtail on the kite. I was the mate. I didn't know up from down, but we caught it and put it in the boat. He had it mounted, and he had a plaque on it. July 10th, 1979. That's how I remembered that day. And he ate a stinking yellowtail, if you can believe it.
That's crazy.
I caught a swordfish one night right after dark, nighttime fishing, that when I gutted him, he had a fresh blue striped French grunt with a small eyeball. So it wasn't some exotic deep water grunt. And I looked that grunt all over for a hook mark, thinking that maybe a boat near us, used it for bait, and he ate it. No hook mark. There was not a flaw on that grunt. And I was out on the sword grounds. Did the grunt migrate? I don't know. That was the craziest thing I ever saw come out of a sword. Blue striped French grunt, with all the little blue stripes on it, like you'd see on the reef. Yeah.
Wow.
Reef grunt. I don't know.
They swim in there, eat it, then swim back out.
About 2 weeks ago, I had a 200-pounder jump twice, free jump next to me, sail fishing right by Fowey. Like the first time I saw it, I just caught him going in the water, just that quarter of a second. And I said to myself, that sword. But I was so scared to say it because I didn't want to exaggerate, call it a sword. Then he jumps again and it's a sail. I feel like an idiot. So I didn't say a word. I didn't even tell anybody I saw a free jump. He's like 100 yards from me. And I pushed out to him. And as I was going, he jumped again, full exposure, 200-pound sword. And he was in like 150 feet of water right before dark. We were tuna fishing. We never got a bite out of them, but we've all seen them in there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You guys, Anthony's still catching swords up there?
Oh yeah. I mean, we only do it in like the late fall to kind of extend our season, October, November. But yeah, they catch them. It hasn't been as good. The longliners have figured out that they can put their stuff on the bottom now and do well with it. So it hasn't been like when Steven started doing it, and there was a couple crawl from Eiler Murata and John Henry started doing it up here. It was. Yeah, basically all the Miami guys came up here, started doing it. They were getting bites a couple bites every day. And now it's not been as good. But the big eye, we catch a lot of big eyes doing that. So which is kind of cool.
Neat.
So
yeah, I never got a chance to do that up there. I was there before all that started.
Yeah. I mean, I like doing it in the fall because I think the fishing's better for that. And there's nothing to distract you. Like some people do it in the middle of the day if it's slow or something, like Andrew on the fish on, and they'll just do it in the middle of the day, just to see if they can catch something efficient slow. But I don't have the patience to do it if there's something else that could potentially go on. But yeah, they catch them. I mean, there's been quite a few big fish caught, 400, 430, something like that. Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thing to do in the fall. I like doing it in October. Like when all the blue water goes away, you can just run out there on a nice October day and drift around and see what you catch.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you got on your calendar, Nick?
Trying to get down to Long Island now. We just did a little shakedown trip and trying to finish up, a few little mishaps or leaks and stuff like that. And hopefully get down there and catch a few fish.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and then hopefully, maybe head to DR later in the year.
Cool.
Anthony just got back from DR not too long ago.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah, I felt like it was good for me, man. Casa de Campo was really good to us, and then I did the white marlin fishing out of Cap Cana, and I couldn't make much sense of it. Fishing off the Red House there, stuff like that. We're just watching the Puerto Rican boats just get bit, and me just being out to lunch, like I just couldn't figure it out. But try it. I hope we could go back there again. So get there a little earlier. Yeah. Do the fad fishing in a Cap Cana.
Yeah,
you got to go back, Anthony. I feel like you have like a mixed taste right now.
I really do. So it's a long ways for us, man. It's 2,000 miles from here to there.
Hey, man, you did it in like 2 days. I don't want to hear it.
7 days. That was a long ride, dude. So.
I think Bermuda is going to be good this year.
Why do you say that?
Bait.
Really?
Bait in Bermuda is wahoo and tuna.
Gotcha. My friend Sean, he told me he runs the Viking boat and they're going to Bermuda. I'm like, Bermuda, really? And he's like, yeah, we're going. But I was like, so hit or miss out there sometimes, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's feast or famine. But I fished there a few years when there weren't many tunas, and I felt like, and I mean, I don't know it as much as the locals, obviously, but I fished with Curly, one of the locals, and he felt that way too. Just the presence of more tuna and more wahoo generally meant there's going to be more blue marlin. Gotcha. And he's already getting bites. I talked to him the other day.
Nice.
But that's a special place, man. When you get the right one on there, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, you want to
neat place?
Yeah. Have you been there, Anthony?
No, I haven't. I really don't have much desire to go there. I don't like. I don't know why. I think I like action, man, and I don't know if I have the patience to wait for a big bite. Maybe I don't know. I don't think there's
small ones.
Yeah, I don't. Small. If somebody was like, if my boss is like, I want to go to Bermuda, I'd be like, all right, let's go to Bermuda. But it is kind of the high time to fish there is a good time to fish here too.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I like being home.
Yeah. No, it is conflicting with a lot of places. It's good in a lot of places when it's good there, but yeah, had a lot of good memories there.
Ray, is there like a day or something a day? It doesn't have to be like a good fishing day or something that, like, if you're on a slow streak or shit's broken on the boat, that you kind of revert back to and be like, yeah, that's why I do this,
Yeah. Well, yesterday I fished some of the local law enforcement, FWC, and they brought one of their comrades that's got terminal cancer, and, we caught a limit of yellowtails and, not a ton of fish, but it brings you back to how fortunate we are to be able to have these things that, think about it. That guy's ultimate wish was to come down and fish South Florida. And it doesn't matter where you're fishing. It's the fact that you're going to a place that's special to him. And that just, it humbles you and makes you appreciate, chance to be there. And I know I told Nick the story, but I fished a guy one time who was kind of odd. He asked questions that, reflected he had not much experience. We went sail fishing, super rough. We lost a couple fish. He was starting to give up hope. And I'm like, no, man, we're getting bit. We're going to, it's going to come together. Just be patient. And we hooked a fish, and it took him like 45 minutes to catch the fish. And we finally got good pictures with it. And the guy said his wife was there. He's like, come out, get your camera. And she had like a GoPro, and she filmed this dissertation that this guy gave about his father. And I had no idea. The guy was really not a fisherman, but his father on his deathbed told him that his two regrets in life is he never went on that fishing trip to catch a sailfish or a marlin. And he asked him to do it for him, wow. And the guy, before it was, so I'm sitting on the transom with this guy and mate, and we're all taking this in. Before you know it, we're all just like in tears, because you realize that, this guy had that regret in his life, and the son came to fulfill that dream for his father. And not to get super emotional or, talking about sad things, but those are the times where you kind of, you go home, you caught one fish or you caught some yellowtails, and you just feel like so appreciative to be part of that process, super cool memories. Of course, great story. All the things you do with kids and first time. That's for me, really, truly the best part of charter fishing. And people apologize for it all the time. Hey, I'm so sorry. I don't really have any experience. When they say that, I'm thrilled, because that means that barracuda is going to mean a lot to them. Yeah. That sailfish is going to mean the world. And sometimes I've even had a couple days where we didn't catch much of anything. And, at the end of the day, I'll read a text. I just got this like 2 hours ago. A guy named Carl Ellington. He wrote this just out of the blue. I hadn't talked to Carl in 2 years. Hello, Ray. This is Carl. Just telling one of my friends how much fun we had fishing with you. Thanks for everything you did for my family, friends, and me. Hope all is well, and I look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Best regards, Carl Ellington. You get that and you just go, wow, I didn't even know what to say to him. And that's the gift, man. That's what I tell these young guys when they come to work. You know, riches take a lot of forms, and money is probably one of the lesser forms. Yes, we need money to pay the bills, but, you know, life's experiences, those are the riches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at that philosophical note, is that a good way to end?
I think that's a perfect way to end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're all blessed. Billy Harrison told me that, you know, when I was young, you know, never take it for granted. You're lucky to be on the sea. And he spent his whole life, he started at 13. I think he's like 75 now, never had kids, never married. That guy traveled the world, and I went to a lot of destinations with him, and I saw it for myself, man. He's a rich man.
Nice.
You know, not that kids and a wife aren't a blessing, but in his world, the fishing was so important. That's what he was, you know, striving for his whole life. And you know, I talked to him today. It was my first phone call this morning because I know he'll be up at daylight. Yeah, he's still a mentor to me.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys spending
Thanks,
time
Ray. That was awesome,
taking
man.
time out of your life.
No,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank you for joining us, Ray. And we'll schedule a part 2. You know, maybe beginning of next season.
Man, we covered everything. That was my
I'm
first
sure there'll be a new
podcast.
topic.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a new topic. So it was great, man. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks,
All
Ray.
right. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Have a